Well, hello. Well, thank you for joining. I'm Heidi Radier. I'll be your moderator. So we've got David Shade, Rob Carter, and Amanda Swanson here with the Division of Agriculture. And they're going to tell us all about their wonderful programs, including the mini food security grants.
Yes, indeed. Are we ready to go?
Go for it. We're ready to go.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I'm Dave Shady. I'm the director of the Division of Ag. Been here a little over a year. So we have been through a lot of turmoil, and we've been doing a rebuild and refocusing on the division. So today we're pretty excited to give you guys an update of what we've done, where we think we're going, and then maybe a little dialogue and discussion about feedback on what people think and where we should go. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to start off, and then Amanda is going to give part of the presentation talking about marketing and market services grants. And then we'll cut back and forth, and Rob Carter will talk about our plant materials center and the plant production and lab services we provide. So what we're going to do is we're going to swing you up to a presentation, and then you'll see that, and we'll cut in and talk. If there's questions, we'll find a way to try to answer them. We definitely save some time in the end for that question and answer. So John, can we swing over and start our presentation? Great. So we're here today at the Alaska Food Policy Council 2020 Food Conference and Festival. We're really excited to be here. We know that there is a broad range of stakeholders in this group, and it's definitely an organization that we work with, listen to, and want to make sure are fully aware of what we're trying to do, some of the things we've been able to get done, and some of the really cool programs and processes that we're about to start implementing. So as you can see, we have 3 offices. The main office here in Palmer, Northern Region office in Fairbanks, up where DNR is. And of course, we have the Plant Materials Center out in Boda Spur, so, which is a wonderful facility out there where we produce on a couple hundred acres of foundational seed, which you'll hear more about that. So next slide. So how is the structure of the Division Ag now? So first of all, when we had our little challenge and had to reorganize, we looked at what is going to be the most effective way to redesign and support agriculture for the next 25 years. We're not looking at 6 months, we're not looking at a year, we're looking at developing that long-term program. I tell the commissioner that there's 2 things you have to know about agriculture. It's multi-generational, and it's tied to the United States Department of Agriculture. And if you don't understand those things, you're going to have challenges working within the system. So what did we do? We said, all right, first of all, we need to focus and have admin and support. So we have set up that in the director's office. So those folks are responsible to myself and to the people above me to make sure that we're efficient and effective in our operations. The second group is land sales and management. Believe it or not, we have a co-program with the Division of Mining, Land and Water where we're selling ag land. The only state in the union that has raw land being put into production from the state. Other states do agriculture, but it's private sector land. We are still selling public land for production, and that's a really cool idea and program. Third program is Ag Inspection and Market Services. This is a program that we run in conjunction and often under the authority of the United States Department of Agriculture. We don't write phytosanitary certificates. We do that on behalf of the USDA. So our folks get trained and certified by the USDA, and then we can operate under both state and federal law to make sure that our food and products are pest-free and safe. And then, of course, a very unique part of Alaskan agriculture is we have the Plant Material Center in state service and where we do the plant production and lab services. So we're a very unique state in that we don't have the huge federal or university presence. So it's largely driven by the state agency, that being the Division of Agriculture. So with that, next slide. So with the division, you will see that we've been reorganizing a little bit. And in fact, the slides have changed a little bit since I put it down there. So as I said earlier, admin reports to myself. Another program that reports to the director is our Ag Revolving Loan Fund, where we are working on that, and we'll be talking about that. And then land sales and inspection, as well as the two senior managers that operate the market services inspection side and then the plant material side. So next slide, please. So under the, I gotta get this right, market services side, we have 4 programs. We have inspection and certification. We have a Northern Region office, which we'll talk about because they're kind of unique, market services, and grants. One of the keys that I worked with Amanda, and she's going to be talking to you a little bit here in a minute, was we determined that we really are getting to the point we have enough grants that we need a person dedicated doing those grants. It was part of the marketing, it was tied in and out, especially crop, technical grants. But with the food security micro grants, we were looking at handling about $4 million in grants and decided that we really needed somebody dedicated. And so we've split that program. And I think that's going to be a big service to the state in the coming years. And then the next slide, please. The Plant Material Center. And so Rob Carter, who's going to talk about that, and I looked at how do we make this as efficient and effective as we can? And how do we dedicate people to the programs that are going to be important to the future? And so it's spread out a little bit. Of course, we've always had the maintenance and operations. We have great people out there growing stuff and making sure that works. But tied to that is the reclamation program. And the reason the reclamation becomes so important is that we have clean water, clean soil, basically a clean environment. And if reclamation is not being done to where it's keeping the invasives and other problems out, then we are inheriting and building this into our system ourselves. And that's a really bad idea. We, of course, have had traditional agricultural production. We have agronomists that help make that work, that being grains, that being things like that, our certified potato program, all those kind of things that are really important. As I said, what goes hand in hand with reclamation is an invasives program to make sure that outside of construction and that we're looking for and we're getting rid of invasives. We did talk about the seed and the pathogen testing program, an international program where we can sell around the world. And of course, last but not least, our industrial hemp program, which we're going to talk about down the line. So with that, I think what I'm going to do is we're going to go and I'm going to talk about the Ag Revolving Loan Program next. That is a pre-statehood fund. Started in 1953. The state made it a priority to put capital for the development of the ag industry. A lot of people don't know that it started before the state was even born. January 3rd, 1959 to be exact, is when we became a state. So this preceded that by a few years. And over the many, well, we're at 60, I'm going on 60 years, we have been developing agriculture. Part of that has been having low-cost funding. So I'm really excited to report that the Board of Agriculture met yesterday. And after many discussions inside the administration and with the board, they determined that it was going to be in the state's best interest to adjust interest rates. And so our short-term and our chattel loans, which is if you want to buy equipment or livestock, are now going to be at 3%. And our long-term loans are now going to be pulled down to 3.5%. This is being done to support our economy. This is being done to support agriculture. So we have a number of folks understanding that food security is even more critical today than it has ever been. And if we're going to get new farmers in, if we're going to get these farms into production, we have to get that capital out there into the market. The good news, the division is through the ARLF, has $13.5 million. We're ready to loan. So if you're looking for a loan, if you're looking to expand your operation, Mandy Tung is our new loan NRS 3. We want to talk to you because we are in the business of making loans. There was some talk years ago of not having these revolving loan funds, including agriculture. I can assure you this program is going to be around for a long time. The governor's office, the commissioner, everybody understands how critical this is going to be to move forward, as the commercial lending is just not available to our industry. And that is a big challenge. So our next slide, please. As you can see in this slide, I got to get there myself. We're sitting on $21.2 million. That's a pretty good fund. Over the last 15 years, the fund has grown by $1 million. It has had really conservative, very smart management by the boards over these years. And as you can see, it's gone up and down, but it has been very stable in the last 5 years, and we continue to increase. So as we've had loans paid off, we have more money available. And the board really wants to make sure that as the executive director of the fund and as the director, we let people know this is something we intend to leverage and continue to push out into the community. Next slide, please. Tied in to having capital is having the ability to have ag land. So what you're seeing here in this slide is a picture of a north selection of land, North Fork, Anchor Point, Alaska, to where we are going to have somewhere between 405 acres, 400 to 500 acres available for ag parcels. This is something in process. This is part of the North Fork. That North Fork parcel down the center line will be segregated out. We're not going to be selling the river. We're going to protect the environment, but this is good soils and good land. So we're going to work to help people see what we have available. So Eric Mo Johnson, he's our lands guy, Guru Lands All. And we have been working on this, and we've been working on another project called the Nenana Tacheket project. The Nenana, well, first of all, people don't realize, but since 1978, we've sold 180,000 acres and 10,000 in the last 15 years. But that pales in comparison to the Nenana Tacheket development. Our initial development is 50,000 acres out of the 160,000 acres available in that area. So what we want people to know is that we're looking at, next slide, please. Oh, I guess I got them out of order here. That's okay. So we know that the important part of future land sales, ag land, is actually ag land. And so with what you see here in this slide is we were looking at the land in Anchor Point. We were down there with you see soil scientists, soil and water folks in that picture. And what we were doing was proving to ourselves that we have good, healthy soil that we're going to be growing in there. And in Anchor Point there, we were down 2.5, 3 feet, really good topsoil, loam, actually 12 inches of organic matter. So there will be some development issues, but those are really good problems to have because it's growing well. And so as we look at that, we know that 640 is good. Next slide. we're looking at the Nenana to Chacket project. So how do we do a good view of 140,000 acres rather than 600 acres? Well, I am pleased to report that this summer we have flown under contract the entire area and have LiDAR and photography. So what we will be able to do is to collaborate, or correlate, I should say, the pictures and the LiDAR, and then we will be able to know what the different soils are in the different areas, so we can design this for smaller parcels, for growing, larger parcels, for ranching, and overall, we can assure a large development. We want to make sure that we also have general use lands so that people know we have a proper development. So one of the challenges in Delta is that you have to go a long way to get to the land that's not ag, to where you can have your shops, your stores, and things like that. So the Division of Ag is working with the Division of Mining, Land, and Water to make sure that we have a better mix in this development. Next slide. So just so you can see some nice pictures and see what it is, this is down at the project area, about halfway in. Prior to the bridge across the Tanana this summer, the oil companies in the city of Nenana had put in some bridges so that you could get out there. So I think we have like 12 miles of road already built out into this project. So if you drive to Nenana, hang a left on 10th Street, you can drive out into this project and take a look at it. I wouldn't try it right now in the middle of winter, but in the summer, this is going to be open, and a lot of folks used it to access hunting and other activities this fall. So that's pretty good. So next slide. A really nice job was done getting this bridge across the Tanana. It opened up basically 1 million acres of land, easy access. You don't have to go across on a boat or helicopter in, do things like that. There's a lot of great habitat over there. So we're going to work with Fish and Game. We're going to make sure all of that is taken into consideration. But we're looking at our first sale in fiscal year 22. So there's a lot of work that's got to be done in a short time. So that's coming along pretty good. Which is the lead in and why we really need to talk about some other programs that are going to work. So literally you can see there, we cut the ribbon here this summer. It's a beautiful bridge, and we're going to move forward with that. The next little part is inspection. And this is leading up to the food security part. If you don't have production, if you don't have the marketing, if you don't have safe products, this is not going to work. So what we have is food inspectors. We are the folks that go out into the field and make sure that production is going to be safe and it's going to be certified so that it can be sold in the retail market. So this is a picture of Mia, who's our head inspector, our natural resource manager 1 now. She manages the program in a potato field, making sure that we don't have problems with that particular crop.
There you go.
So you can see, there are the little potatoes. But what do? Not only do we go out in the field and check, we have to work on behalf of the USDA to get these producers certified so they can sell at the retail markets. That's called food safety audits. Sometimes you call it GIP-GAP, good handling practices, good agricultural practices, whatever you want to call it. Are people doing things to where they keep it clean, they keep it safe, and it's going to be a healthy, fresh product for the public. We also do a lot of work certifying plants so that they're healthy, so they don't have bugs or pathogens for export. We do grade inspections for the USDA. People don't see us doing that, but we grade eggs. We look at eggs. We will look at vegetables and other things in the stores, at the farmers markets, making sure what it's marked is what it is. And of course, along with our grading and inspection, We do country of origin labeling, which goes quite a bit further than some of our internal programs. But on behalf of the USDA, we do a number of stores around the state. So, sorry about, what's that, John?
I was saying you might touch on the food boxes.
Oh, the food boxes. Yeah, I'll get to there.
Okay.
So we also do, oops, we went one forward. We also do, can you back it up one? Oop, I didn't go back.
That's it.
Yep, plant quarantine enforcement, shell egg inspections, elk farm inspections, and we assist with organic certification. So we'll talk a little bit about the organic. We actually have a grant that's open right now for people that are working with their organic certification from out of state. The center picture there is the food box program. And that has been a USDA program where we were able to get food from unfortunately out of state. But the good news is in state to folks that need food during the coronavirus. What we were doing there was on behalf of the USDA auditing the AC warehouse as they were sending things out. We still have challenges with this program. I was just before this program working because the last remaining contract is only for the rail belt. And what we're trying to do is see if we can get some more product out into our rural areas. So we'll be working with the team from the governor's office and others to see if we can make sure we continue and we will make sure we have food in our rural areas throughout the winter. It's been a challenging winter, we know that, and food security is a #1 priority of Incident Command and of the division. So we're going to be working to make sure we work with our nonprofit partners, everybody that's part of that process. So the good news is we had about $3 million worth of product brought in and shipped out. There's another $500,000 contract, or $500 million under contract. We've got some of that here for Alaska, but that leaves us short. And we know that those are challenges we're going to have to really work on. Next slide. We also have the really neat ability to work with industries that are still clean. And honeybees is a really growing agricultural industry. What you see is Chris Seckery here. He is doing part of a USDA nationwide study of what diseases we have in the bees. And it's really cool that we have very low incidence of mites and other pests that are in the bees. So we have a couple of videos that we're going to show. I think this is the first one. So hopefully we've got this technology working. We really hope it does. So here's one of the things that we worked on this summer. So we're going to roll a video.
I'm Chris Seckery. For those of you who don't know, I work for the Alaska Division of Agriculture, and I am the State Survey Coordinator for the Cooperative Agricultural Pest Surveys, also known as the CAPS program, and PPA, which is Plant Protection Act 7721, formerly Farm Bill projects for the United States Department of Agriculture, APHIS. This year I had a number of projects going on. Some were affected by COVID, some were not. Primarily, we began the season by doing gypsy moth trapping in Southeast Alaska. That involves placing traps and retrieving traps in the beginning of the season, at the end of the season. Southeast Alaska trapping was modified this year. Typically, it's Juneau, Sitka, Ketchikan, and Prince of Wales Island. This year, we weren't able to make it to Sitka and Prince of Wales Island because of logistical concerns. Another aspect of my job is becoming an ACO official, which is an authorized certification official for the United States Department of Agriculture. Primarily, I'll be doing log inspections in Southeast Alaska since I'm down there for my work anyway. This year I trained with Curtis Knight from our Northern Regional Office, and he was showing me log inspections. Basically a log inspection, you fly in on a cool little plane, you land out in the ocean on some floating logs, you drill some holes, you send the samples off. The log species we're looking at in Southeast Alaska are spruce, hemlock, red cedar, and yellow cedar. And again, those were all harvested from Prince of Wales Island. Another aspect of my job that I do that I spoke with you guys about last year is the National Honeybee Survey for the Bee Informed Partnership Group out at the University of Maryland and the USDA APHIS again. The National Honeybee Survey takes place every year and entails two different types of sampling. One is longitudinal, which is a two-part sampling, one at the beginning of the season, one at the end of the season. The other is general single sample. We've been doing a lot of that work in the state of Alaska. Honeybee registration helps that if you know any beekeepers. But other than that, we're looking for pest and disease in honeybees that are in Alaska and assessing our health versus the health of bees in the lower 48.
Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We spent this summer with, we have a new publication specialist, John Whipple, who's running the show here for me. And so we had John out there taking pictures, doing videos. What we're trying to do is show the people that need to see what we actually get out and do. And I think that taking these snippets and putting them together really help people understand the hard work, all the dedication of our staff as they go out into the environment. They go out in the rain, the shine, they make it work, they make it happen. And so we are really pleased with these little videos that we've come up with. We're going to continue to do that, work on other marketing videos and things. So, you know, part of what our inspection service does is we're working on exports. And as you can see from the slide here, we got certification done for almost 100 million board feet of timber. And that's $80 to $90 million into this economy. Very, very critical in a year where we're not having those kind of successes in other parts of our industry, i.e. our tourism industries. Next slide. So our phytoterry export program, it's pretty good size, but it comes down right now to two major issues. Of course, log exports, which we just talked about, 92%, but another really cool growing industry is peonies. And I know there are other kind of flowers people are starting to work with. We have some rhodiola that's being exported. There's other niche markets. We've sold yurts from Alaska to Germany. So all of these products need a sign off from the USDA. Our inspectors are certified, qualified, and provide these certifications on behalf of USDA. In Alaska, we also have a very unique program in that we can do certifications in foreign countries. Next slide, please. So Alaska, for the timber industry, we have made an agreement and we send staff to South Korea so that we can get our specialty wood into smaller ports in some of the Asian markets. That was going to be a challenge this year. First, we had to build a travel plan. Then we had to build a plan for international travel. Then we had to get approval for travel in Alaska. And then we had to get approval for travel into Korea. That took a couple months to put together. We had a plan to go do a certification and fumigation in November. That particular deal fell through, and that was the marketplace. But Curtis Knight goes over, these are pictures from South Korea of how they set up and supervise this fumigation and then sign it off. It is a very unique but a really great program that is unique, and it gives the Alaska timber industry the ability to operate in an international market. We don't have the ability to do these fumigations in state. It's really unsafe to do these fumigations on board. And so this is a solution that works for our industry. We're proud of our staff that has built this program and continues to move it forward. So I know that industry, when we were talking to the forest industry, they're very appreciative having this ability. When they're negotiating, they can say, well, we don't have to go to your port. We'll go to another port. We'll get it fumigated, and then we'll sell our logs to a buyer that will give us more money. So that is a really good thing. The last thing that I want to spend a little time on is the fact we lead a robust program in cooperation with all of our federal and other state partners. There's a vast misunderstanding that Alaska is not coordinated. We are actually coordinated well. We just have an excellent working relationship with Custom and Border Protection. We are talking to them about vectors in from all of the foreign vessels up at the border. We work with them constantly. The same with the Forest Service, the Park Service, University Extension. You see all the acronyms and everyone on this. What is important is to keep our environment safe and clean. It is not only important for agricultural production, it is critical to our wildlife and the food we harvest from out there off the land. And so a lot of folks don't understand food security goes hand in hand with all the industries we have, goes hand in hand with not only our traditional agriculture, but all of our subsistence lifestyle, our commercial fisheries. Everything gets tied together because it's all interrelated. And we're going to talk about that in Elodia here in just a second. So I think we're ready for our next video. And so as a preface, we want to explain that Elodia, that little fish tank plant, when I was a kid, we put it in the fish tank and it grew, and we thought that was neat. And if you had told me that it grew under ice, and that was a problem in Alaska, I'm like, no, it's a warm water plant, but it's not. It actually likes growing under grass. It has got into some of our ecosystems, and it is really damaging to that ecosystem. So we declared it a crisis, and Fish and Game and DNR has decided that, we're all in on this. So with sustainable salmon grants and other funding, we have been working really hard to eradicate Alexander and Sucker Lakes, as well as some other water bodies here in the Anchorage area. In the last 2 years, we've got $1 million into this. And so it started, we think probably somebody threw out water out of a fish tank and little fish. It got started, got into Lake Hood, has been transported around the state. We're now on a pretty significant eradication plan moving forward. The good news, no new infestations this year. We did find it in Big Lake. We did find other problems earlier, but we have done quite a bit of work, and I'm going to let the video run because I think it really tells the story. Sorry about that. It's taken a minute. We're trying to get this up. This is new technology for us, but we really, since we can't come in person, we've been working really hard in our studio here to get the technology to where we can show you the pictures of what we do. So I think here we go.
2020 field season was dedicated to controlling and eradicating Alodia from waters in south central Alaska. This season we focused on south central Alaska, treating 2 lakes and 1 stream in Anchorage, 2 remote lakes in the Mat-Su Valley, as well as 1 lake in the Mat-Su Valley on the road system. We surveyed 21 water bodies on the road system in south central. Our partner agencies surveyed another 12, both in Anchorage and in remote Mat-Su on the west side of the Susitna. The results of these surveys found no new infestations of Alodia, which was very exciting and positive for the continuation of the eradication program we have going on statewide. In Anchorage, we treated 2 lakes, the first being Lake Hood, the second being Jewel Lake. Lake Hood was treated with fluoridone pellets in May to prevent Alodia from reestablishing in the world's busiest floodplain seaplane base. The second being Jewel Lake, it was treated 3 times this summer with fluoridone pellets. We maintained fluoridone concentrations between 5 and 10 parts per billion all season long. Results are looking really good out there. Lots of dying Alodia, very little new growth, and another season of treatments in Jewel Lake should take care of the Alodia in that water body. We also treated Little Survival Creek, which flows into Potter Marsh. There's some Alodia along a ditch, and very little detected in 2020, and we just spot treated it with fluoridone pellets, and it's dying back in there, and we're having positive success in all 3 water bodies in Anchorage. In the Mat-Su Valley, we treated 3 lakes this season. Big Lake, we spent a lot of time surveying, looking for Alodia in Big Lake. We put some fluoridone pellets on the known infestations, and we had a really successful treatment of dicot in Big Lake in mid-July. The main Alodia infestation in Big Lake was pretty much removed from that dicot treatment. There's still just a few small satellite infestations of Alodia that we know about, and those are all under treatment. Overall, walking away from Big Lake this season, I have a smile on my face. It went really well. Very positive and productive year on Big Lake. On the west side of the Susitna River, in the Mat-Su Valley, we have 2 lakes that have Alodia, Alexander Lake being one of them. I had planned in April to do a full eradication program in Alexander this season, but this was one area that COVID did slow us down. Our injector units were not built or delivered on time, so we weren't able to establish or put into place a full eradication plan this season. So we moved to do a similar program to what we did in 2019, which was to control the main body of Alexander Lake, to remove the Alodia from the areas of planes and boats, taxi and travel for the most part, and we've knocked the Alodia back 50% in that water body. Our plans in 2021 for Alexander Lake will be a full eradication program. The injector units will be hauled on site during the winter and put in place in late May, and we'll be injecting fluoridone concentrate throughout the 2021 season. Adjacent to Alexander Lake, we have Sucker Lake, which is actually 3 lakes connected by small channels. This was by far our biggest success story in 2020. Sucker Lake was once 90% full of Alodia, and today it's down to about 10%. In 2019, we treated Sucker Lake with dicot, and given the timing of the treatment, the water levels, the warm temperatures, we had very successful kill with the dicot treatments. This season, we focused on the remaining small patches of Alodia, putting both dicot and fluoridone on those patches. Sucker Lake is looking really good. It's down to about 10% Alodia, down from about 90%. We had really successful kill In 2020, the pellets, the Floridone pellets, the concentrations were between 6 and 12 parts per billion. They were much higher than we anticipated in a good way. We're seeing really successful treatments out there, and I would suspect we will have most of the Alodia gone from Sucker Lake by the end of 2021.
Okay, you're back on.
So as you can see, we had some really good success here. And I really have to thank Fish and Game and the Sustainable Salmon Fund for really great support of this program. We've got a couple more years. This is not over. We probably got another $1 million worth of eradication efforts in the South Central region. But we feel pretty confident that we're going to be able to get this eradicated. We continue to work with other cooperators up north, down in the Cordova area. We're going to make sure we get this cleaned up and then make sure it doesn't come back again. It is devastating to the salmon habitat. And of surprise to me is that the pike use it and just hammered the little ducklings this summer, that they could just ambush them. And you know, so it's a little disturbing, not only for the fish and their habitat, but it really gets into the birds, and that causes a problem as well. So we really need to consider how important invasive control, first of all, you know, preemption, and then early detection, control, eradication, and then as a last resort, management. But I kind of look at it in those steps. Let's just keep it out in the first place. And if not, we deal with it immediately and keep going. There are some things that have kind of got away from us already, but we know that the plants and other things that can outcompete our local habitat and change that environment are the ones that we're really going to prioritize getting rid of, because it's going to be critical to our state. So with that, you know, food security, if you can't sell your food, you're not going to be in business to provide more. So we have a really new look at how we're going to do marketing and market services. And so I'm going to let Amanda Swanson, who has been gracious enough to accept the challenge here last summer and move into that slot. And so she's going to talk about the programs and some of the things she's doing as a one-person show as we're working to hire some new people in. So Amanda, with that, why don't you go ahead and tell people how we're coming along with marketing and grants, and we can then talk about things as we go along.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Swanson, and I am the program coordinator for the Division of Agriculture. And I'm going to give you an update on market services. Next slide, please, John. So right now I am working on the Alaska Grown state branded agricultural program, domestic and international market development, and on the grants. Next slide, John. We have Alaska Grown promotional items available for purchase. We have a survey order form that is at the link below. You can also go to buyalaskagrown.com. And I'm going to share my screen real quick so I can walk you through that website. Give me one sec. Oh, it looks like I can't share my screen. But if you go to buyalaskagrown.com and you can go to buy, and at the bottom of that page, you'll see a link to our Alaska Grown marketing materials. And we have small 3/4 inch Alaska Grown stickers available in rolls of 200, 500, or 1,000. And we also have Alaska Grown stickers that are large, 1.5 inch, same quantities, 200, 500, and 1,000. You can put those on your products to help market them. We also have 7 by 11 inch white price cards. and produce twist ties that come in bundles of 300, or you can also buy a case, which comes with 10 bundles. And the quantity of that is 3,000. So these products are good. You have to make sure you're signed up with the Alaska Grown program. You can find the application for that at our byalaskagrown.com webpage. And
Amanda, if you'd like to try again, I changed a setting, and then if John or David would like to stop sharing your screen, that might help too.
Okay, great.
So if you'd like to try again, you can.
There we go.
All right, so I'm going to come back here. So when you go to byalaskagrown.com, this is the home page. And you can see here, we also have information about our specialty crop block grant program application. We have information about our restaurant program, the $5 store challenge. We did for the Alaska, through the specialty crop block grant program, we did have a program for restaurant recognition. That program had to kind of be put on pause this year because of all the restaurants being closed down due to COVID restrictions. So we do plan on restarting that again next year. So that'll be another program that is running. If you go to buy, this is what I was talking about earlier. We have the link to the farmers market directory that's provided by the Alaska Farmers Market Association. We have a list of stores and retailers that provide Alaska grown products through their stores. And here is for farmers, growers, and producers. This is where people can find links to farms in their area where they can go to buy Alaska grown products. So that's for the public. You can also go to buy, and let me know if I'm going too fast. Here's where you'll find our price list for Alaska grown marketing materials. Here are some of the supplies that we have available currently. And this is also good to have on your product because something else that the division does is we help USDA with the country of origin labeling, and the Alaska Grown logo meets the country of origin labeling requirements for USDA for proper labeling on where the product is sourced. So if your product is in retail stores, then having the Alaska Grown logo on there, such as the produce twist ties or the stickers, helps meet the qualifications for that. All right. And if you go to join, here is where you will find a link to the Alaska Grown application, where you can sign up for the Alaska Grown program if you are already, if you're not already signed up. Okay, so you can stop sharing. We can bring the PowerPoint back up, John. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. Or we can go to the specialty crop block grant slide. Okay, so for 2020 specialty crop block grant, we were able to award six external projects for the specialty crop block grant. These are very diverse projects and from areas all over the state. So we're really excited about the projects that they are working on. We think this will be really good for the specialty crop industry. We also funded 2 internal projects for the division, so we can use those funds to offer assistance to the specialty crop industry. We have the harmonized GAP and GAP plus assistance, so they can get assistance with the costs on those. So you'd want to contact Mia, who's our inspector at the division, or Janelle. We also are going to have assistance for our export market and expansion project, which I'll talk about what we're doing with export here in a little bit, but that will give assistance for travel costs and sample shipments and things like that for export. But the purpose of the specialty crop block grant, if you're not familiar with it, is to increase the awareness and consumption of specialty crops through activities such as increasing crop efficiencies or marketing programs, to encourage consumers to purchase specialty crops, crop trials, pest management, etc. The definition of specialty crops, they're broadly defined as most fruits, vegetables, including cut flowers, honey, and medicinal herbs. What's not eligible are a lot of crops that are already being subsidized, such from the federal government, such as corn, sorghum, soybean. Livestock is also not eligible for the specialty crop block grant. And there's a link here for more specifics on the specialty crop block grant requirements at the ams.usda.gov webpage. Next slide. So the funds are administered by the Division of Agriculture and managed by the USDA AMS. They're available each year. And so how the specialty crop block grant works is at the beginning of the year, usually around January, we will ask specialty crop producers or supporting industry to submit letters of intent. And that's where it's kind of the initial application where they describe the project that they want to do. We make sure that their project meets the specialty crop block grant requirements and restrictions, and then we will forward them back feedback, and they're invited to submit a full request for proposals that will be due sometime in March. So we are getting ready for the 2021 specialty crop block grants, so keep an eye out for that on our webpage around beginning of January. Next slide. Again, I kind of went over this already. We had 6 external projects, 2 internal projects. My contact information is below there if you have any questions or would like more information about our 2 internal projects that we're working on and how you can get assistance through those grant programs, and also about the 2021 specialty crop block grant that is coming up. Next slide.
Well, Amanda, you got a question on the chat about Homegrown for Heroes program and where that stands.
I have not done much with the Homegrown for Heroes program. Dave, are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I think it's when things kind of got sideways, it kind of got stalled out. I know there is definitely interest in moving that forward, and it's something that when we get staffed up in that, we'll look at again. So, you know, the Homegrown by Heroes, there's a list out there. There's some things that we can try to do to expand and work on helping those producers and making sure people know that that's actually available. It definitely is something that the USDA is all in about, helping veterans and with that program. So it's still currently being led more by the USDA than by the division, but it is something that we'll look at when we have more resources to make sure that our local veterans and folks can participate in that program.
Okay. Next slide, John, please. Okay, so the food security micro grants, this is probably what most people on the conference are interested in hearing about. Alaska received about 1.9 million in funding from the federal government for micro grant for food security. And so we are really excited about this. We will have 5,000 available for individuals and 10,000 for organizations. That's per year for 3 years. Projects must be related to food production, preservation, or herd management. And the main goal of this grant is to increase food security in Alaska, which we all know is an issue. And items eligible for funding include fencing, gardening tools, training or education, shipping costs, starting or expanding an operation, seasonal expansion activities, slaughter facility equipment, herd management, processing equipment. We have a lot more leeway with this grant than we do with the specialty crop grant on what we can fund. It will be a very competitive grant. We're expecting a lot of applicants for this grant. And as far as the application structure for this, it's going to be similar to the specialty crop block grant in that we are going to be first requesting letters of intent that will help the staff at the division and also everyone who's wanting to apply for the micro grant. They'll submit it first. We'll make sure that it meets the USDA qualifications and also that it's a project that is going to meet the goal of increasing food security in Alaska. And then we will later have a request for full proposals where they will submit the complete application for the grants.
Right. So if I add a little bit here, Amanda, I think COVID-19 just really drove home the need for food security and the fact that we have these micro grants available. The time couldn't be better. So as we've talked about standing up this program, we're hiring a grant administrator, somebody whose job is going to be working on this project with Amanda and others. So we're going to focus as set up in the bill is like, look, we want to see production in the local area. We want to see the ability to store the food in the local area. We want to see that people have the ability to be educated and understand how to do that. So we're going to kind of look at it from that lens. As Amanda said, we're going to take letters of interest. And the COVID also has shown us that the most food insecure are the folks at the end of the supply chain. Alaska's is in the US supply chain, a lot like Hawaii and the problems they're having, which is even a bigger issue for some of our territorial islands, I've been told. But it comes back to, we've got to look at how do we get these resources out into the rural areas, and producing it there is a really positive thing. So Amanda and her team, which we're standing up, will hopefully have this out towards the end of the month, early December, because we want to be collecting those proposals first of the year so that some of these projects can be in play by this coming growing season. And so it's a tight timeline. We did not get this grant until September 30th. So we kind of were held off because until we had it, we couldn't move forward. And so now we're playing catch up. And so Amanda's done a great job kind of getting the preliminary work done, and we're going to go and we're going to have a team of not only folks from here in the division, but throughout the state that are going to help us do the analysis, because we really want to make sure we get the best program projects out there. Also keep in mind, this is a multi-year authorization from the Farm Bill. So we'll see if we get more money. So this is year one, where we have the 2 million almost for the year one, but we'll see what's available once the next bill gets passed for USDA and see how much more. So it definitely is something that the delegation has been pushing for additional funding as authorized in the Farm Bill. And we look forward to see how successful they can be. I think that understanding the needs of food security makes that a lot easier for that discussion in DC. And I shout out to Karen and all the staff in Senator Murkowski's office, Senator Sullivan's office, and of course, Congressman Young's office. They've worked as a team to support food security in Alaska, and we really appreciate that. So your last slide there, and anything else you want to add, Amanda?
Yes, I did want to talk about what we are working on at the division with giving assistance to our export industry for agriculture. And so John, if you could stop sharing, I'm going to share my webpage. So the Division of Agriculture, we partner with a lot of different organizations to provide support to Alaska agriculture. And one of those organizations is WUSADA, or the Western U.S. Agricultural Trade Association. And basically what this does is we partner with 13 member states and we do trade activities. So pre-COVID, we were doing inbound activities where we would bring international buyers to Alaska and to our partner state to meet with local suppliers. and try to build those relationships so they can start exporting to these markets. And we also did outbound, where we would bring some of our Alaskan producers down to these other countries and regions to meet with buyers to set up export. Once COVID hit and a lot of travel was shut down, we have been adapting quickly, and we have started doing a lot of virtual trade activities, which is really exciting. Alaska is partnering with the state of Washington Agriculture Department, and we have a trade mission coming up November 18th, where and the markets that we're focusing on is Malaysia and Singapore, and it's for our seafood. And that's not just fish, it's clam, oyster, gooey duck, sea cucumber, other high-end products such as that. And so we will be having some Alaska companies meeting with international buyers in Malaysia and Singapore, and starting to build those trade relations. We also have another activity that is currently open for registration right now, and that is for phase 2 of our trade activity, which focuses on the Philippine market. And the deadline for registration on that is November 13th. So if you know of a country or a company that's interested, they can still sign up for that. And that's more virtual matchmaking meetings through Zoom. We use the Zoom breakout sessions where we can have suppliers meet with buyers. Each supplier will get to meet with, we're hoping 3 to 4 international buyers, and that includes importers as well. Next year, we also have several trade missions planned. We're waiting to see whether or not those are going to have to go to virtual, or if we will be able to travel for those. We have an outbound for specialty beverage with the state of Washington to Japan. We have an inbound with the ASEAN or Southeast Asia specialty beverage with the state of Hawaii. And we also, later in the year, around August, are planning to do an outbound mission with Washington to Canada for cut flower and nursery products, and that will include peonies. So if you are thinking about international export, or are ready for international export, or know of a company and you're not signed up with WSADA yet, this is an excellent opportunity for you. They provide all sorts of information, market briefings. They have a fund match program where they can reimburse companies for costs that are eligible for marketing and promotional activities. So an example on that is if you're wanting to export product to Canada, they have a requirement that they have the dual language labeling with English and French. And so you can get reimbursement on that for having to do the new labels on that. So it doesn't cost anything to sign up. There are small fees for if you want to participate in an activity. So if you are interested in this, I would highly recommend that you just check out WSADA.org. That's WUSATA.org. Or you can contact me and we can work on getting you set up with WSADA. They also do international trade shows as well. There was this Y'all China trade show this year. And due to travel restrictions, we had a contractor in China that represented our Alaska companies for us. And we actually had one Alaska company sign up. This was the first time an Alaska company has participated in an international trade show. And they got a whole bunch of trade leads after that. So it was a very successful trade activity for them. And we're pretty excited about that. Alaska's just on the verge of really doing the export for agriculture.
Great.
That's all I had.
I really appreciate that. As you can tell, with a limited staff, we're doing a lot of work. And how marketing and food security relates, as I told somebody, is if we have a freezer full of food to export and we need to eat it here, then we don't sell it. And so, not that we want to hoard, it really is going to be important to build our markets so that we have the production. So when we need it with disruptions, we have that. So our last segment is going to be talking about plant production and lab services out at the PMC, the Plant Material Center. So Rob is going to kind of run us through that. I see we're getting a little tight on time, not too bad. So Rob, why don't you tell us a little bit about the great work that's going on out there at the Plant Material Center? We're listening for you, Rob. You're on mute.
Looks like you're unmuted now, Rob.
Can you hear us, Rob?
Yeah, he's unmuted, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's something else going on. I can try and give him the phone number to call in unless you guys have some more material to cover.
All right. I haven't got any message from him. So John, if you can do that, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'll just start his presentation, and when he gets in, he can do it with a lot more detail than I can.
He says I can hear you, but I'm unmuted and it cannot hear me. So his mic's not working.
So his mic's not working. So why don't you give him that phone number and let him call in? That'd be great.
Okay.
One of the things Rob says is he has the best office location in the state for a state employee. He gets to look out there in that beautiful mountains, farmland. I think the team out there really enjoys where they work. So you can see in this picture, one of the tractors as they were out there getting things started this. I can't tell if that started this summer or if that's putting in a cover crop this fall. It looks more like fall. So anyway.
So I put the phone number and the passcode in the chat for you, David, and Rob. So hopefully he'll be able to call in. I don't know if he's on chat or.
I'm looking. You say you sent it in,
Oh,
put
he
it in
says
the
he's
chat?
calling. Okay,
Ah, okay, perfect.
hopefully that works.
Of course.
Tell me about this cool potato starts there.
So the pictures you see there, of course, is our seed house. And that's where we do all the cleaning. They have cleaned a lot of seed. Normally, we don't have a lot of cleaning in the summer. I think we were only shut down for 3 weeks this year because that's how much product we had. They were trying to do. We finished last year's product. 2 or 3 weeks later, this year's product started showing up. So they were already putting it out there. So.
All right, can everybody hear me?
There you go, Rob. You're on.
All right, well, my Zoom is telling me I'm unmuted, but I guess I'm not somewhere digitally. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rob Carter. As Dave Shady said, the director said, I am the manager of the Plant Materials Center in the Butte. It looks like you jumped a slide on me since I was fighting the computer. Well, for you guys to know who I am and who I are, like I said, I'm the state agronomist. I manage the Plant Materials Center. We do a ton of stuff out there. Really, we house the only certified seed lab in the state of Alaska. That is where we do all of the labeling and meet the labeling requirements, germination tests, noxious weed tests, seed ID, tetrazolium chloride. We also have a plant pathology lab that works with a lot of grant-funded projects and the university on projects, as well as other, I guess, complaint-driven questions from industry, identifying disease and bacteria. Todd Steinlag is our plant pathologist. Lubo Mihalov is our certified seed analyst in that lab. Again, majority of that is to be able to sell seed under the Federal Seed Act and state seed regulations. You must have a seed test to show its germination and its purity, viability of that seed. So it's a consumer protection clause really that allows you to know that the seed you got is what they say it is. It's free of noxious and invasive or restricted weeds. Fantastic place, great staff. We do a lot of industry outreach, education and consulting, mostly for reclamation, revegetation. All of the programs have that component. Our invasive weed program, which you saw earlier in the video of Dan Coleman, our potato production program with Christine McNicky. We do a lot of outreach and education from that perspective too, but a lot of that focus is on reclamation and revegetation all over the state of Alaska, working with mine sites and oil well companies and construction development companies and private landowners and corporations that are looking to reclaim either from a soil disturbance, a wildfire, natural or man-made, either one. We do have a horticulture program. It hasn't been as active as it has in previous years. We've been actually revamping greenhouses and doing a bunch of stuff, but we do work in conjunction with other folks to trial plants, to make recommendations to folks, and to help producers around the state with their horticultural crop production. Really, it wraps back our native plant evaluation and our germplasm of all the seeds that we maintain. I'm really wrapped back into two things. One, we produce foundation level seed at the Plant Material Center to be able to keep those varieties true, to make sure that they are what they say they are, and then get those out to growers around the state that are interested in growing native seed for the native seed market. The full turn there is we do have production or some services we provide for seed cleaning. We are one of the seed cleaners in the state of Alaska, and so a lot of that plant material then comes back to the Plant Material Center to be cleaned and packaged and tested to be labeled to be offered for sale. You want to go to the next slide, John? This is kind of who we are, and again, we are a repository for native plants and seeds. It's grasses, native grasses, forbs, as well as grain that has been developed over the years in conjunction with UAF and the USDA that has worked well for production for forage in Alaska. Occasionally we do trial some for human consumption. I've been doing more of that here in the most recent years with the uptick in people wanting to be more sustainable and farmers wanting to produce seed for food and for distilleries and brewing companies. Next slide, please, John. There's the pleasure of my job. You actually have a picture of me in here vacuuming wheat out of the back of a truck. That was actually from this year's production. So I will tell you that we produced about 2 tons of seed potatoes on the farm this year. Not all of those are Generation 0 seed potatoes that are going to be offered for sale. A lot of that is trialing. We do put what we keep in tissue culture, move it out to the field, and that's also what's ordered for certified seed growers and growers around the state. But we do that for validity checks, really, making sure that nothing goes wrong in the lab, that they're staying true to try. We do some yield studies to identify of our 231 varieties we maintain, to be able to help people with production, what fits their region, how to grow it, if it's a box garden in somebody's backyard or if it's 100 acres on a commercial farm. We did about 5,500 pounds this year of foundation grass seed. Majority of those are hairgrass and calamagrostis, things you see as you hike or walk around the state of Alaska. Over the years, the Plant Material Center has made selections of those native species, and again, working on the agronomic practices of those native plants to get them back out to growers, to get them in large-scale production for the final use of generally for reclamation, revegetation. The grain that we produce generally is sold back to farmers. Again, grain and grass seed need to meet isolation distances, so we try to use our farm as a place to spread them out, to keep them there, to produce that foundation level seed to sell annually out to producers, large and small. And that, again, this is inside of our seed cleaning facility on this photo here, where we actually are bringing in large quantities of seed and vacuuming it up and running it through the machines, so it can be cleaned and conditioned, repackaged and given back to the growers. That's a fee for service, just like our pathology services and our seed lab. It's really to recover the cost of what it took to do the work that we did for them. 2020 really is actually, for on the amount of seed we cleaned this year is actually kind of a combination of fall of 2019, spring of 2020. Was just over 200,000 pounds. And it looks like we're projecting to be about that. We've cleaned it up to we just finished about 50,000 pounds of grain, and have done roughly about 10,000 pounds of grass seed so far this year. And that's considered the 21 production cleaning season. John, next slide, please. And I kind of mentioned a little bit this before. Again, we maintain this foundation level seed for Alaska agricultural producers and growers around the state, so that, again, it's true to type. When you buy a variety of grain from us, it is that variety, because when we planted it, we met our meter isolation distances, and we've maintained it through integrity, a chain of custody, basically, where it's harvested, the combines are cleaned thoroughly in between every harvest. We tend to switch from one type to another type in between each of those. We currently maintain 51 Forbes, 16 grain varieties, and 95 grass seed varieties. Those kind of turn and move a little bit. Every year we're evaluating more native plants for reclamation. We have about 16 species that we're evaluating currently, and hopefully we'll see a release here this next year for a few types. And again, our seed cleaning service is really for our production, and then of course a service for industry that's out there. But it's really unique that in this sense, it shows what we have. We have a lot in process. We do a lot of other things under these two kind of services under this plant production we do. We work on a lot of grant funded projects through NRCS and other federal partners for the invasive program, evaluating and surveying roadsides and surveying lakes, and as well as looking at soil health through our cover crop trials, as forage projects, looking and evaluating native plants for use as forage to reduce inputs, either water or nutrient. And then of course, trying to bring things back like our current Denali alfalfa project, of where we're bringing alfalfa back to Alaska. I guess it was worked on years and years ago. We got a grant to try to do a seed production and increase. We have had it in the ground at the PMC for 3 years and have had successful harvests, baling alfalfa off it. And I think that's a good success story for Alaska, and a good example of our changing climate that we're dealing with, as it's allowing us to maintain these perennial crops much easier than it was 10 to 15 years ago. Next slide, please, John. Again, we really work with the university, with NRCS. We've created many manuals like the revegetation manual for Alaska. We have the coastal revegetation guide, a lot of Publets and tech sheets for NRCS. And again, a lot of that focus is working with industry, both the agricultural producers and the natural resource extractors, to make sure that when they finish or they work through a project, that they can have successful reclamation, keeping the soil in place and keeping the water clean at the locations that they are. Go ahead, next slide, please, John. So here's kind of a new one, pardon me, kind of a new one for us. This has been in the works in Alaska for a long time. Really, the federal initiative that set this forth was the 2014 Farm Bill, and now the 2018 Farm Bill. The industrial hemp program nationwide really states that if a state takes on the law and the regulation to oversee the production, processing, and marketing of industrial hemp and its derivatives, then it's illegal to grow industrial hemp. Industrial hemp, by definition, is a cannabis sativa plant that tests below 0.3% THC. It was in the works for a long time through Senator Ellis. Senator Shelley Hughes continued that and got Senate Bill 6 passed here a few years back. We worked pretty hard through the regulations. They kind of came and went for a little bit and then came back, and we got those finalized and put out April 4th of 2020, where we could then actually go in and have people registered to produce, process, and market industrial hemp. These numbers on the bottom of the screen have actually been updated. We're pushing somewhere close to 100 retailers right now. We have 6 growers and 3 processors, and we have close to 200 products endorsed. This year, we had about 70 acres of industrial hemp registered outdoor for production this season. We had about 9,000 square feet of indoor greenhouse space, and all of those have been harvested to this point. We do have some indoor space that's getting converted over now for winter production of industrial hemp, very specific to growing those plants only for cannabinoid extraction. The big one out there that everyone knows about, CBD, but there's many more. And so we're evaluating those and processing those applications daily. The interest in this program has been astronomical, to say the least. The interest for people wanting to grow it for a multitude of reasons. One, because there is some revenue to be generated in it from cannabinoid production, but people are evaluating it for biomass, for animal bedding, for feed, and for seed production. So it's a very unique program. I think that we've set one in place that is probably the most stringent around the country, definitely the most economical for the people that want to be involved. But it's a vertically integrated program where we register everything from the growth, the processing, and the marketing, as well as the products. So when you start to see industrial hemp being offered for sale at local retailers, you'll see that Alaska Industrial Hemp logo that we've generated for our program. And those products then that they're offering for sale will carry an endorsement to show that they have been tested to the levels that we have set in our regulations, which are quite strict. But very applicable in the sense that most cannabinoid products, non-THC, non-recreational cannabis products, are used for wellness. And so, of course, we want to make sure those products are safe for the consumer. Next slide, please, John.
Rob, I just wanted to let you know you have about 10 minutes left if you want to save time for questions.
All right, I'll speed up. So here's some interesting things. I know this presentation will probably be available to everybody. It's really showing global hemp cultivation, with us kind of coming in fourth. In 2019 is the most recent number. We're sitting somewhere just over 110,000 acres around the nation. So these programs, there's about 40 states that have programs that are really pushing acreage. Some of the good numbers there to look at is that it's looking to be a $2.6 billion industry by 2022. They're saying it's looking to be a $25 billion industry by 2027. But what's the most amazing there is it has a projected growth rate of just over 27%. There's not many other agricultural products out there at this point that have that. So just some numbers here that are pretty mind-blowing from the sense of an agricultural crop being produced around the country. John, next slide, please. This is our landing page for our industrial hemp program at plants.alaska.gov, the industrial hemp tab on the left. If you're interested in growing, processing, or being a retailer of industrial hemp, or endorsing industrial hemp product that you are manufacturing or processing into, it's pretty easy. The applications are online, along with all the associated fees and the requirements that you need to do it. Next slide, please, John. Here's us and our concerns. We've learned a lot through this. We will be doing some regulation updates with our program here this winter. We found things that are onerous for us as regulators, as well as it is for industry. And we want to make those changes so it's a smooth process, that it's fair to both the regulators, and again, under the whole aspect that these products that are being offered for sale in the state of Alaska are safe. We are concerned about quality. That's why we endorse our products. There's synthetic cannabinoids on the market that we're looking at. THC concentrations have been climbing all over the board around the nation. So we're definitely have our eye on that. The animal feed and pet treats, of course, really is regulated nationally by the FDA. And so we're evaluating that. Enforcement, because this is kind of our side hustle besides everything else we do at the Plant Material Center, and markets, evaluating what national markets we have and what international markets we have. This program is really kind of has a multitude of cross jurisdiction because they are cannabis, and we do have a recreational cannabis program in the state of Alaska. So we work with AMCO, DEC. Has a huge part in this because, as most people know, most cannabinoids are being introduced to people through food products. So as we get retailers and processors and products endorsed, there's going to be a lot of cross-regulation and jurisdiction with those other agencies that we hope to partner with this winter during our regulation updates to make sure that everyone's in compliance with all state law. Next slide, please. I think this is actually Dave's. But I'll let you have that one back, Dave. So that's really us at the PMC. We're a component of the division. We're located out in the Butte. I appreciate everyone's time to sit here and listen. If you have any questions, regarding invasive species or our elodie control program, our seed potatoes, or our seed cleaning facility, or lab testing of your seeds or your plant pathogens, or have interest in growing industrial hemp, reach out to us, get on the web and look us up. It's really easy to find us, and there's some of us there that we can have answers to. We don't know everything, but we know a lot of really smart people out there that can help us work through that process, and we can help you the best we can. And I'll turn this back over to the director and let him finish it out.
So thank you, Rob. You know, we don't have to spend a lot more time on the last slide. Basically, we're focusing on what we need to focus on. You've heard about our market work. You've seen our invasive work, how we have really ramped up grants, and how we're going to be looking at some major increases of money that we can get out into the industry. So we're going to focus on our markets and food security. We're going to continue these core services, as well as work in bringing more land available online. So the last little thing is we really are looking at how do we come up with a farm production incentive that we can help people scale up. And so in the next year, I think you're going to see some new innovative ideas that we're working on so we can help people afford to develop a larger footprint on their farms. And so with that, we've got a few minutes left. And if you want to allow, I think we might have one or two questions that we can try to answer.
Feel free to type your question in the chat box or unmute your microphone.
Well, I hope that people see with a team of 30, we're doing some amazing work. This is a great group of people that don't just work their regular hours. We work long hours. We work hard, we play hard. We're out on your farms. We're out in the different facilities. We're here to help. We really are the people from the government that come in and say, hey, we're here to help you. We really mean that. We do have some enforcement kind of rules, and that's what we want to do. But, you know, that definitely is something we try to educate first and then work from there. So I've got a question. I'm curious about the main products you are seeing produced from hemp production. Is anyone focused on textiles? Go ahead, Rob.
We have seen that interest of the acreage that we saw produced. We have folks interested in biomass. Some of that is to remove the inflorescence off the plant and sell that for other purposes, and then dry down that material to evaluate it for processing into mini fiber products. Once it's into a raw fiber form, it can go to something like textiles, or it can go to something like a fiber or engineered wood product. So we do have some growers that are super interested in that, and we are working on some projects with some companies that have interest in trying to see how much biomass we can produce in the state and run it through some processing there. I know that we have a fiber processor in the state, and I'm super curious to hopefully implement some more research of this project. We do grow it at the hemp at the PMC for compliance testing on THC, and I'm hoping there's a point next summer, post-COVID, hopefully, that we can then start moving some of that material out to industry that does have some processing equipment to evaluate, what the potential is. Biofuel, the same. We've been in contact with some pellet mills to evaluate some of the material that was grown this year to be incorporated and compressed, because what we can do on about 2 acres or 2.2 acres of industrial hemp per acre in about 90 to 100 days is the equivalent of what they can get off 2 acres of forest in 20 years. So remediation, yes, we've looked at that as well.
Right. And we have one person in the state that is actively involved and an owner in hemp plastics company. So there are a lot of opportunities here. Well, I think that about wraps us up here. We got 1 minute left. I really want to thank the Food Policy Council and all the folks for putting this on, giving us the opportunity to highlight what we do here at the division. I think what Rob said is really true. We are here to serve the industry. We work really hard at that. So I have an open door policy. Call us, text us, write us, get a hold of us. Sometimes it takes a few days for us to get back to you, but we do get back to everybody. I'm, as the director, going to try, once COVID restrictions get off, we're going to be more out and about. We were very careful this year, but we were able to get the inspections done, protect everyone, because we definitely did not want to be a vector. So with that, moderator, anything you
Thanks
want us
so
to
much.
add?
Nope. I just wanted to say our next session will be at 5. So hope to see you all back then. And thank you so much for your presentation and explaining all the great things you guys do.
We appreciate it. Thank you all.
Have a good one.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.